Now I'd like to go to a very important chord, the 5 chord. It's also called the dominant 7 chord. It's one of the most important chords in all of music. You can use it for a lot of things. We'll get into secondary dominance later, where you can use it to modulate to other keys and as chord substitutions. But let's talk about it right now. Now a dominant 7, now this will be in the key of C. It will be a 5 chord. It'll be a 5-7 chord. So it sounds like this. Hear how that wants to go to 1? It wants to resolve to C. Listen, here's the 5-1. It's like a resolving chord. And that's the point of it. It resolves to 1. And that's a big part of lead, a big part of music. It's like painting. You can use the tones to lead people around. Like a good painter knows how to lead your eye through a painting. You look at exactly what they want you to look at, any order they want you to look at it. Music's the same way. You can use these, we all have these associations built in from our culture. You know, us people, the people that grew up in America, we were used to these certain sounds. In India or in you know, the East, it's very different sounds, different chords, everything's different. But we've learned to hear this dominant 5 chord go into 1. So we hear that a lot. So you can use that to lead people to other chords. You can use them to fake them out and surprise them and stuff like that. But the way the way the dominant 7 works is you take a major chord. So you have a major third, and you flat the 7. So you go. Here's the, say we're in the key of C, playing the 5 chord, which is a G, and we go down 2 frets to make it a flat 7. So it's G, F sharp, F. And so a G7 would have an F in it. And again, that leads us back to 1. It's a very, very important chord. Okay, let's go into the 6th chord now. This is also a minor chord. Now in the key of C, the 6th chord's an A minor. So here's an A minor. Again, here's the A. Here's the other A. And if you go down 2 frets, you've got an A minor 7. Now there's an A without a 7. Okay, let's talk about the last chord in this particular part, the diminished 7. Now this is a strange chord that's fairly complicated, but let me see if I can sum it up here. Now the other chords in the major scale, the 1-4-5 is major, the 2-3-6 is minor. Well, the 7th is diminished. Now what diminished means is it's groups of minor thirds stuck together. There's 4 notes in it. Let me play a true diminished chord now. It's like, now that's the same chord, believe it or not. They're inversions, but basically those are all the same group of 4 notes all over the neck. Now the reason those notes sound kind of strange and kind of special, since there's 4 notes, they're all a minor third apart, they form this kind of geometric structure that's always the same, so you can move it around and it has that kind of unique sound. You can use it as a chord substitution. Since it has all the notes of the 5 chord and the 2nd inversion position, we'll get into that a little later, you can use it to substitute for a 5 chord. It's great for modulating to other keys. As you heard the 5 chord want to go to 1, the 7 chord really wants to go to 1. So like this, that's the 7, the B minor, the B diminished. Hear that really want to go to 1? So you can always lead people up with that, or fake them. But since the notes can go to any other key, you can modulate to any other 4 keys with the same chord. It sounds a little strange there, but that's what you can use it for. So that's basically the introduction of that part of the diminished chord. Now there's one other note. There's what's called a half diminished 7 and a fully diminished 7. Now in true, if you took the true scale, the true major scale, and again we're in C, and you stack the notes up from the B diminished, so it would go like this. The last note is a flat 7. It's not a diminished 7 if you take the true pitches, because it's an A and it needs to be an A flat. So really what we'll do is we'll flat it anyway. And that's the sound of the chord rather than this. And that's called a half diminished 7 and a fully diminished 7. If you're looking at music, say you have a chart, jazz chart book or something like that, if you see a 7 with a little circle beside it, that means fully diminished. You know, that's this form, or there are other ways to play it, but that's that. However, you may see something that says, it may have the circle with a little, like a slash, a little line drawn through it, like that. And that means it's a half diminished 7th rather than a fully diminished 7th, so it relates to the scale like that. The reason you want to use these 7 chords, they give your notes, you can give your songs a lot more feeling, a lot more depth. It's a lot more complex harmonically. Really, one thing in guitar you should really think about, which maybe you haven't quite realized yet, even though we tend to play chords, you know, like this, and just jump around, or notes and just jump around. When you're playing more than one note on guitars, as in, you know, some kind of each particular string should be a voice, should be a melody in a way. Think of classical music, think of Bach or something like that, where you could take, there's 4-part harmony, and you could take the bass line, and rather than having it just be, you know, boom, 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 maybe like country or something like that, although country bass can be great too, think of it in terms of that this is, there's a melody in each voice. You know, there's a melody line here, and maybe your melody up here is doing something, you know, each couple notes is a whole melody. So part of these 7s is to teach you to learn the melody weaving through the piece. And it's also, again, this is really for your ear. You want to learn to hear the difference. So if you're up here playing, say I'm up here playing in D minor, and I want to hear some, you know, I can learn to hear the sound. Okay, here's the 7, and here's the 9. And you learn to hear those differences. And that way, when you want that sound, once you've learned that sound, when you want it, you know where it is and you know how to get it. And so that's it for 7s today.